So polio is a disease that is characterized by paralysis. So when we think of polio, what we think of are the classic symptoms of the disease, which is acute flaccid paralysis. So this is usually paralysis seen in a limb. And polio was an emergent epidemic disease in the early 1900s across most of the industrialized world. And then in the 1950s, 1950s, early 1960s, two vaccines against polio were developed. There's a vaccine developed by Jonas Salk, and that's known as IPV, the inactive polio vaccine. And then there's the Sabin vaccine, developed by Albert Sabin, and this is also known as OPV, the oral polio vaccine. And so these vaccines were used to eliminate polio, eradicate polio from the Americas. So I should make a distinction between elimination or eradication. The eradication of a disease is when you drive a pathogen to extinction. So it's gone. You've gotten rid of every single infection in a population. Elimination is when we reduce the disease below some threshold. So the goal for polio is to eradicate it, drive this virus to extinction worldwide. This was very successful in the Americas very early on, and so in the late 1980s, global polio eradication became a goal. This was kind of following in the heels of smallpox. And so the goal has been get rid of this virus everywhere. And that's proved to be very difficult. Over the years, there have been many goals set for deadlines for when polio eradication would happen. And each time one of those deadlines rolls around, it doesn't happen. And just the most recent of those deadlines was in 2014. And at the time, there were 3 countries that were still endemic for polio, meaning that there was still active transmission of this virus. And those were Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Nigeria. Nigeria has had some recent success, but Pakistan and Afghanistan still have polio. And in both of those countries, the majority of the countries are polio-free. They don't have ongoing transmission, but there are these polio strongholds. So there are these small regions of the country, of each of those countries, where vaccine workers just aren't able to get in and get every child. And Pakistan has particularly been a problem. There's been violence against polio workers, so individuals that are going out and trying to give OPV, the Sabin vaccine, being killed. And so that has meant that kids are not able to get this vaccine and that these strongholds still exist. And it is because of those kind of social and political aspects why we aren't able to get to every child. And the 2014 deadline for stopping polio transmission has passed. We've had 19 paralytic cases this year. And when we say 19, that sounds like a very small number, but those are the number of individuals that have actually shown up paralyzed by polio. But in fact, that means there are many, many more individuals that are infected with it, because only about 1 in every 100 to 200 infected individuals actually show up with paralysis. So the virus is still out there. Throughout my PhD, I thought, it's going to get eradicated, and we still don't know when it will actually happen.